The rain came down in sheets upon the grand entryway of Mage Pagoda. Slick rivers of water coursed along the labyrinthine carvings of the pagoda's threshold, pooling in the grooves that formed ancient sigils of warding. The arcane fortress stood immutable in the ether, an entity unto itself, woven from purpose and magic. At its gates, standing in silent vigil, were the gargoyles, weathered sentinels sculpted from black spirit glass, their bodies imbued with eldritch intent. Of them, there was one whose consciousness had begun to stir, a rare occurrence in the ever-shifting reality of the pagoda. He was called Malak, though he had never spoken the name aloud. It had come to him as a whisper within the ley lines of the structure, uttered by the undulating presence of the pagoda itself. He had perched at the grand entryway since time immemorial, his wings unfurled in eternal readiness, his talons curved against the threshold's arch. Malak did not dream in the way mortals did, but he knew the shape of memory. He had seen the coming and going of countless supplicants, mages seeking enlightenment, scholars delving into forbidden texts, and warriors searching for the wisdom that could temper their strength. He had witnessed battles waged at the threshold, where entities unfit to cross the pagoda's barrier had perished against its defenses. Yet for all this, he had remained an observer, fixed in place, bound to duty. Tonight, something shifted. A figure approached through the storm, barely more than a silhouette against the void. Malak felt the ripple in the pagoda's wards before he saw the interloper. This was no ordinary traveler. The arcane threads that laced through the fortress recoiled at the presence of the stranger, yet did not bar their entry outright. That, in itself, was anomalous. The stranger stepped forward, a hood drawn over their face, obscuring their features. Their robes were dark, embroidered with glyphs that pulsed dimly with unstable magic. They carried an air of quiet authority, yet it was the object they held in their hands that struck Malak to his core. A shard of spirit glass, identical to his own form, yet cracked and fractured, its edges bleeding raw magic into the air. Malak had never moved in all his existence, but now his wings flexed, a minute shift that sent rivulets of water cascading from his stone frame. The stranger halted, tilting their head slightly, as though perceiving the motion. "I see you," the stranger murmured. Their voice carried through the rain, not loud, but resonant in a way that bypassed the senses and burrowed into the mind. "You are not merely a guardian. You are a witness." Malak did not answer. He was uncertain if he could, for the constraints of his existence had never permitted speech. Yet something in the stranger's words gnawed at the edges of his being, forcing a response from the deep well of awareness that had long been locked away. "Why do you carry that?" Malak's voice was a low grind of stone against stone, jagged from disuse. The stranger's lips curled into the ghost of a smile. "You know what this is." Malak did. The shard was a remnant of something once whole, a fragment of another gargoyle, one that had been destroyed long ago. Memory flooded him, unbidden and raw. He recalled the last time such a thing had happened, the echo of a battle that had sundered one of his kin. The energy still clung to the fragment, its resonance unmistakable. "The pagoda does not forget," Malak said, his voice carrying more certainty now. "That which is broken does not belong here." "And yet," the stranger countered, stepping closer, "I am permitted to stand before you. The pagoda allows my presence." Malak did not refute this. The wards had not repelled the stranger, which meant the entity had some claim to be here. But that claim was tenuous. He could feel the tension within the pagoda's own awareness, as if the entity was neither guest nor enemy, but something in between. Lightning split the sky above the pagoda, illuminating the stranger's face for the briefest moment. Their features were sharp, almost sculpted, bearing a resemblance to... Malak froze. "You are one of us," he rumbled. The stranger exhaled softly. Not anymore. They held the shard up, letting the flickering light catch within its depths. This was me once, a part of me at least, before I fell. Fell. The word carried weight. Malak had never considered the possibility that one of their kind could be severed from the pagoda's will. Yet the evidence was before him, proof that such a fate was not only possible, but real. He regarded the stranger anew, examining the traces of spirit glass woven beneath the layers of mortal flesh, the subtle architecture of his kind still present, though warped and incomplete. "What do you seek?" Malak asked at last. The stranger's grip tightened around the shard. A return. Malak felt the pagoda shift around them, unseen yet omnipresent, its consciousness weighing the request. The fortress was more than a mere construct. It was a living entity, imbued with the intentions of those who had built it. It was their arbiter, their guide. And now, it would decide. The rain slowed, the torrents thinning into a fine mist. The carvings upon the threshold glowed faintly, their inscriptions rippling with unseen deliberation. Malak, ever the sentinel, felt the pull of decision form around him. At last, he spoke. "Step forward." The stranger hesitated, then obeyed. As they crossed the threshold, the shard in their hands pulsed once, then dissolved into motes of light, reabsorbed into the fabric of the pagoda. A breath escaped the stranger's lips, something between relief and pain. They stumbled slightly, and Malak's taloned hand extended, steadying them. The motion was small, but it was an acknowledgement. The grand entryway of Mage Pagoda had not merely accepted a lost fragment, it had restored it. Malak withdrew his hand as the pagoda's doors rumbled open, revealing the vast interior beyond. The stranger cast one final glance up at him before stepping inside, vanishing into the corridors that lay ahead. As the doors sealed once more, Malak resumed his vigil, his wings folding into their familiar position. Yet something had changed. He was no longer merely a guardian, a static observer to the tides of time. He was a witness, and for the first time in his long existence, he knew that one day he too might step beyond the threshold.